But now we're going to go to our last guest of the show. This man is a previous member of Belfield FM, had a show last year called Blissfully Deluded. But this year he has a more responsible role as deputy editor of the College Tribune. We are delighted to be joined by George Hannaford. George,
Hello.
Thank you very much for coming on.
Hello.
So, first of all, I'm just going to introduce this article that you wrote in the Tribune, the latest edition, and it's entitled Towards Minimalism. So basically, there's a bit of a summary here that says how much of our contemporary lives and the accompanying social media is necessary. Deputy editor George Hannaford takes you through the minimalist purge of his lifestyle that saw him remove his Facebook feed, mobile phone, and even his bed and mattress in an effort to find some concrete reality in the modern world. Now, we were just talking off air there that myself and Eamon originally thought that this was maybe a week-long experiment or something of the such, but it goes a little bit further back than that, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, I think kind of the current state of kind of the way kind of everything is quite minimalist is probably accidental. You know, it wasn't kind of back in the mind of, I think I'm going to kind of, break everything down and go minimalist. Kind of what happened was very early age. I'm like, I don't have enough money for this phone credit and it's going too fast. Cut out the phone. And then you're kind of thinking, well, how else am I going to communicate or make a phone call or whatever? So kind of from there, that's the first step. And then kind of, I think progressively I'm kind of learning kind of the idea of needing this and this wasn't necessary, and it's kind of there seems to be, I don't know, personal level more freedom kind of with less, so it's kind of less cluttered, you're seeing less, especially say when it started to kind of get rid of the Facebook feed, because you've got say X amount of friends and you're just like, what is going on? And kind of you're scrolling down and it's kind of it's I kind of found myself not paying attention, and that's where it's kind of, let's kind of ditch this and clear things up.
Yeah.
It's kind of,
In the article, you mentioned about you kind of started to, well, first you started unfollowing and then you started unfriending people. Did you have any awkward social interactions after that?
Yeah.
Of people who called out and
Yeah,
were like,
yeah,
hey,
yeah.
what the hell?
This was kind of interesting because I did mention to a couple of my good friends, I'm thinking about maybe getting rid of people, and they're kind of like, don't do that,
Where
don't
will
do
I
that, because
stand?
you're gonna kind of meet them, and it's interesting. I've had two kind of like there's kind of a 21st happening. There's some of the people, and I had two conversations where it's, George, you've unfriended me, and I'm kind of like, yes, that was right. Why? And I'm kind of like, well, I'm cutting out like this. Don't worry, it's not you. It's a load of other people as well.
It's not you, it's me, I swear.
It's me, yeah. And it's kind of like, it was interesting in the fact because I did social studies I did social computing for kind of the undergrad. So one of the things that was kind of interesting was kind of how much do people actually kind of care for the Facebook, and kind of when your friends or so, like, as in what does it really mean? So it's surprising to find, even though I hadn't talked to these people for say like 3 years, I seen them at 21st, I'm hearing comments like, George, you unfriended me, how come? Even though say I hadn't been posting or hadn't been liking, I wasn't like active, they still seem to have somehow figured out that I wasn't their friend anymore, and they did. Like, I think, a couple of people kind of did, where it's like surprised, like, George, how could you do this? And I'm kind of in the back of my head, I haven't talked to you for 3 years.
And it wasn't one of those fake websites that claim to tell you who has unfriended you in the last week either. That's one thing I suppose we can delve into is the Facebook and your approach to Facebook, that you've incorporated kind of Dunbar's theory on this of having as a maximum of 150 friends.
So kind of what happens there is kind of like kind of earlier, just there's so much going on. But it's also kind of like, you could say it's very self-centered, where I'm fed up of seeing this, I'm fed up of seeing that, or kind of I'm not getting anything from it. So it's kind of like when I see a news feed that's kind of full of very quick bits of information which simply grab your attention for that amount of time, I'm kind of in the mind maybe for something maybe with a bit of kind of content to it where I can actually think about. So it's kind of, the news feed didn't really work. So kind of the first step was just to clear that off and kind of then try and engage maybe with pages or other kind of things that I prefer. Because at least then I get more interest out of it. But what actually happened, a good side effect was, now that I cleared off my newsfeed, important kind of things that I like often get sent to me by friends, thinking, George will actually probably like this, I'll send him. So it's kind of like I still do get bits of news and bits of content which kind of they understand that I'd appreciate. It just simply was, there's too much going on, and it's more the messaging service that I think is kind of more important. But like actual retention level of the newsfeed, like you're in lectures and you kind of look down at laptop screens. Everybody's scrolling, as in they're constantly scrolling up and down, but then nobody seems to be properly reading the stuff, which is kind of interesting. On like loads of things nowadays hang on images, and if the image is good then we stop, but say like somebody's status or something just gets lost in the middle. I mean, there might be important things there, but like I just didn't care enough. I guess it's kind of very simple way.
That's a very good point. You're listening to Good Morning Belfield here with Deputy Editor Tribune George Hannaford.
One thing you said in the article too was that you haven't had a phone for 6 years now.
It's been about 6, yeah. As in, I have an iTouch on me. The iTouch is great, it has Messenger.
But what if you're like in an emergency and
I'm screwed.
you just have to shout really loudly and hope?
Yeah, no, I do accept that there is an issue in the sense of like, my employers keep on telling me, get in the 21st century, please. And I'm kind of like, I am, just email me. So it's kind of like, usually the thing is, it's kind of in the article is just there's so much Wi-Fi about. We're getting more and more Wi-Fi. People are kind of using more kind of apps and kind of communications that are based on kind of Wi-Fi rather than going through the traditional phone kind of. So it's kind of, I say the future probably would rest on more kind of Wi-Fi based communication. So maybe in the future, kind of, you'll be paying all for data and very little on kind of your phone bill, all that type of thing. But as in, not having the phone really only becomes an issue when you're trying to meet up with somebody you don't know, or simply if you need to get called into work or whatever. But the good thing is you can always ignore messages. So,
you always have an excuse in your back pocket.
Yeah, so
That's
it
nice.
kind of, there is kind of, nice kind of workaround there, what I mean? But it does mean that kind of spur of the moment, if like they're not replying to the message, you're kind of like, maybe a phone would have been good,
Yeah. And you see, I have a first-hand example of literally about 20 minutes ago where a phone was actually didn't go in my favour, let's say, as I was about to play a song, and then my orthodontic practice decided to ring me to see if I was going to attend the appointment later. So if I had an iTouch, I don't think I would have had that problem. One thing I found fascinating, and I'm not sure how many other people use this similar arrangement, but your sleeping arrangements, and you've decided not to sleep on the usual bed and mattress.
This is a bit of a ridiculous one now, because again, this is all accidental. So essentially, let's go back to secondary school. Wednesdays was half days, so that meant I just slept in the afternoon. But I had one of these bunk beds, and I didn't like the idea of coming home, having to climb up on the bunk bed and sleep. So I just was like, I'll just lie flat on the floor. It's a wonderful feeling. Go try it. And that was easier. But like kind of the floor in my house, there was carpet, so it helps, was comfortable. And it kind of got to a stage like probably a couple of years ago, I probably need a new mattress. I actually chucked the mattress because it's so old. And what happened was, in the middle of the night, I'd be like, this is ridiculous. The floor is more comfy. And I kind of started sleeping on the floor. And then kind of I'm half on a mattress, half on the floor. And I'm kind of beginning, wow, the floor is so good. It's just so good. Let's remove the bed, just because like it just seemed simpler. And again, like I could walk into my room and just more space. So it's pretty good that way. And then kind of the floor is more comfortable, I think, and it is again it's just simpler. You're not faced with kind of this big mattress that's kind of there. You have your floor, you have the sleeping arrangement, and you can roll it up, and then kind of you get that space back again. So it kind of even opens up kind of the floor to kind of like, doing a range of different things rather than having this big thing in the room. But it's again is it's just I don't know, there is something different about it. I don't know exactly what it is, but it is just simpler in the sense of I want to get down to sleep, I just lie down. There isn't like there isn't kind of that nighttime ritual or morning ritual of making the bed like in the traditional way of putting the duvet back over. It's just roll it up and away I go. It's quicker, easier, simpler, and more comfortable for me. I probably should have just bought a new mattress.
Actually, during the summer, I had an unpleasant experience with sleeping on floors that probably weren't as comfy as yours, George, where I actually did nerve damage to my right arm, which has been some somewhat of a hindrance that I can't actually work.
I thought that was
Um,
sleeping in a car rather than the floor.
It was actually a combination of 2 nights on the floor in a Las Vegas hotel and then a night in a car.
And
So
were you intentionally on the floor in the Las Vegas hotel, or did you just kind of wake up there?
I had no choice, as there was more guests to the bedding arrangement in
see.
the room, if you know what I mean.
I see.
So I guess you know, you maybe had the right approaches to posture and everything on the floor, and I might get some tips for the future, just in
Yes.
case I'd end
Just
up doing
to-
more nerve damage.
Just to warn the listeners that there's can damages can
Yeah.
occur.
Don't try this at home. That's basically what we're trying to say. Eamon, do you have anything else to add to that?
The other thing that caught my eye was you said about how most Facebook newsfeed is pretty irrelevant content, which I would agree with. But you said in the article, I will leave Snapchat and Instagram for they have different socially inherent uses.
Right.
What do you
So,
mean by
as in,
that?
like, I'm not. So, like, say that's an interesting point. So, say you have Facebook, which is a lot of socially created content. So, but it's socially created content for the masses in the sense of very quick, very kind of quick material to read and digest.
Yeah.
So, say like memes, vines, etc. The last couple of seconds.
Mm-hmm.
But say when you look at Instagram, or I'll start with Snapchat actually. Snapchat often is kind of say, you know, it's less people on Facebook than you have, but it's kind of the key people on Facebook who you communicate to are probably going to be in your Snapchat. So kind of the communication there, somebody's going to send something over to you, but probably say if it is a direct Snapchat rather than a story, has you in mind. So kind of the content's being more tailored towards you.
Okay.
And then kind of all that kind of thing. It's just a more closer social kind of feature
Interaction.
of that just happens in Snapchat. But say Instagram then is kind of important because you can really tailor. So like you can get like loads of different people going on, but of course they're all going to be photos or videos, but you can really properly tailor, say, the content towards your interest versus say if you got a Facebook feed of say 500 people,
Yeah.
that's 500 people which all have different interests, and now what's coming back to me is a load of stuff that I probably don't care and a couple of things that I do care, but say like the
Mhm.
other two, the content can be kind of filtered better and it's more going to be, you can definitely just control it more in your interest.
Okay.
That's what it is.
I think Facebook is on the downward spiral, and if it didn't have the messenger attachment, I think, you know, it would
Mm.
fizzle away in a
Yeah.
couple of years. It's
Yeah.
very much gone very clickbait in terms of not only like news stories and stuff, but you know, just viral videos
Mhm.
that it always seems to be in my newsfeed.